Today's like goal is 400 likes. I hope you guys complete it. And make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. The spacious arena becomes the stage for the unexpected spar, leaving Kangwoo and Shihun puzzled about the sudden challenge. The vast emptiness around them amplifies the intensity of the moment. Chunmoojin explains his desire to assess their abilities, assuring them there is a reward for their effort. His confident demeanor reinforces his belief in their potential. Kangwoo, evaluating the opportunity, sees this as a beneficial chance to showcase his strength. Shihun's silent gaze reflects his trust in Kangwoo's judgment and readiness. The shimmering demonic energy stone gleams ominously, hinting at Kangwoo's intention to test its power. The prospect of facing a world-ranking opponent excites him, removing any hesitations. With a fiery aura engulfing him, Kangwoo smirks menacingly, his hand extended in a challenge. His words signal the beginning of an intense battle. Brimming with confidence and energy, Kangwoo channels a burst of powerful energy as the authority of iron and ice merge into a formidable force, radiating a chilling blue aura. The intense display signifies his mastery over these abilities, ready to unleash devastation. Kangwoo charges forward, wielding the combined might of his abilities, striking down with immense force toward his opponent. The clash ignites a blinding surge of energy, showcasing his overwhelming dominance in the battle. Chunmoojin's sharp gaze locks onto the icy shards flying toward him, his expression revealing a mix of surprise and focus. He braces himself for the incoming attack, preparing to counter Kangwoo's overwhelming assault. Kangwoo leaps through the air with his axe, delivering a devastating strike aimed directly at Chunmoojin. The clash of power sends shockwaves through the battlefield as Moojin braces against the impact. Chunmoojin steps back, analyzing Kangwoo's aggressive approach, as their weapons prepare for another clash. Kangwoo doesn't hold back, charging forward with relentless determination. Chunmoojin counters with a fierce lunge, golden energy emanating from his attack. Kangwoo steadies himself, narrowly blocking the overwhelming strike with his weapon. Kangwoo's eyes burn with intensity as he channels his strength to hold off Moojin's assault. The raw power in the moment leaves both combatants at a standstill, neither willing to back down. The battle intensifies as Chunmoojin slashes forward, his blade cutting through the air with precision. Kangwoo narrowly evades, his instincts keeping him one step ahead in the deadly exchange. Chunmoojin follows through with a rapid strike, his expression filled with determination. Kangwoo counters swiftly, their weapons colliding in a brilliant flash of energy. Kangwoo smirks with a menacing expression, his confidence oozing through the tense atmosphere. His demeanor hints at an impending move that will turn the tide of the battle in his favor. Chunmoojin's eyes narrow sharply as a surge of realization and alarm crosses his face. His intense glare suggests he's preparing for the dangerous energy radiating from Kangwoo. A crimson burst of power surges upward as Chunmoojin channels a deadly attack. The overwhelming energy ripples around him, demonstrating his unyielding determination to dominate the fight. An enormous explosion engulfs the surroundings in a fiery blaze, scattering debris in all directions. The sheer impact leaves the battlefield shrouded in chaos and destruction. Chunmoojin is thrown back by the shockwave, narrowly avoiding the falling rubble. The force of the attack leaves the ground shattered and the air heavy with dust. Kangwoo holds a glowing stone in his hand, a satisfied grin on his face as crimson energy swirls around him. He remarks on the stone's incredible power, clearly relishing its potential for devastation. Kangwoo wields the bident, surrounded by the authority of dark spears, as a sinister aura engulfs him. His mastery over the weapon amplifies his power, granting him an edge in combat. Clenching his fist, Kangwoo emphasizes the importance of adaptability, channeling his energy to enhance his abilities. The burst of power signifies his readiness to evolve and dominate the fight. Kangwoo strides forward confidently, his movements radiating power even without relying on body-fortifying techniques. The precision of his step emphasizes his control over the battlefield. A fiery strike descends toward the opponent, Kangwoo's attack infused with swirling crimson energy. The relentless force of his assault drives his adversary to a defensive stance. A glowing sword is raised, emitting a radiant, spiraling aura that lights up the surroundings. The intense energy signifies the weapon's immense power, preparing for a decisive strike. The figure summons the blue dragon's essence, a majestic and intimidating force manifesting in shimmering blue light. The dragon's form symbolizes unparalleled might, ready to overwhelm the enemy. The opponent's gaze sharpens, determination and defiance glinting in their focused eyes. The intensity of the moment captures the resolve to face the overwhelming dragon. The blue dragon first form releases a torrent of powerful energy, shattering everything in its path. The sheer destructive force of the technique leaves no room for resistance. A barrier crackles violently under the strain of opposing forces, red and blue energy colliding in a spectacular display. The clash creates a chaotic surge, tearing through the battlefield with raw power. Shinmujin charges forward, surrounded by swirling red shards and fierce energy. His movements radiate a desperate determination to reclaim control of the battle. Kangwoo raises a single finger, lightning sparking around it as he reveals his third principle. His calculated demeanor hints at the devastating power about to be unleashed. Shinmujin's expression hardens as explosive energy surges around him, signaling a climactic confrontation. The intense glow reflects his resolve to withstand Kangwoo's escalating power. A fiery explosion engulfs the battlefield, consuming everything in a blinding inferno. Kangwoo watches calmly from a distance, standing as the harbinger of destruction. Kangwoo grins menacingly, his red eyes glowing ominously as he declares his mastery over destructive power. The condensed demonic energy swirling around him serves as a terrifying weapon. Two figures cry out in shock and concern, their gazes fixed on the chaos unraveling before them. Their fear and desperation underscore the stakes of the escalating battle. A voice shouts, "Stop!" with desperate urgency, echoing through the chaotic battlefield. The tension intensifies as everyone momentarily halts, awaiting the next move. A figure unleashes a massive surge of blue energy, their form illuminated by its blinding radiance. The overwhelming force leaves their opponent bracing for the inevitable impact. Kangwoo smirks, his red eyes gleaming as he acknowledges underestimating his opponent. Despite the intense pressure, he exudes confidence, ready to embrace the escalating challenge. A powerful aura surrounds the figure as they reveal their true strength, radiating with blue energy. Their piercing red eyes and towering presence signal a serious turn in the battle. Kangwoo activates the authority of blades and hellfire, flames intertwining with sharp edges in a fiery display. His determination burns brightly as he prepares for a clash of ultimate power. The protagonist's fiery fist burns brightly, radiating immense power and ready to strike. The protagonist wields a massive sword engulfed in golden flames, crouched in a determined battle stance. The fiery aura around him grows stronger, ready to unleash devastating power on his enemy. The old man glares intently, his sharp gaze filled with suspicion and curiosity. His voice carries authority as he demands to know the identity of the figure before him. The protagonist grins darkly, taunting his opponent while flames blaze around him. His confidence intensifies the tension, inviting a fierce clash to begin. The battlefield is illuminated by the glowing swords as the protagonist and his armored rival prepare to fight. Onlookers stand frozen, feeling the weight of the impending battle. The phone screen lights up with an incoming call from Ki Yeonju, breaking the moment's intensity. The protagonist hesitates before deciding to answer the call. The protagonist's expression shifts to concern as he urgently asks what happened. His red eyes narrow, sensing trouble on the other end of the line. The protagonist, visibly annoyed, speaks into his phone, demanding an explanation for the delay. His frustration is evident as lightning-like energy crackles around him. A girl, frustrated and exasperated, gestures towards a sleek car while explaining the urgency of the situation. Despite her irritation, she insists that she is not a chauffeur. The protagonist smirks while holding his phone, responding with a light-hearted tone to the girl's demands. He assures her he will handle the situation, maintaining his calm demeanor. An old man with long hair stands silently by a window, gazing into the distance. He expresses regret over an unfinished matter, his tone calm but filled with contemplation. Soyeon blushes while praising Kangwoo's strength, with Shihun enthusiastically agreeing beside her. Shinmujin, observing them silently, questions whether he should be content with their apparent camaraderie. Shinmujin reflects on his plans, deciding to delay intimidation until he uncovers the protagonist's true identity. A chilling energy unsettles him, hinting at an ominous presence. Shinmujin stands before a crimson sea of swirling energy, its ominous waves radiating destructive power. The overwhelming sensation feels as though it could consume everything in its path. The towering Hwarang squad headquarters gleams under the bright sky, signifying the organization's strength and authority. Its grandeur sets the stage for upcoming events inside. The Kangwoo reacts uneasily, his voice trembling as he identifies the creature as a succubus. Sweat forms on his face, revealing his growing concern about the revelation. The group gathers around the table, discussing the demon that drains male energy. One of them mentions that Japan's demon cult is attempting to summon a succubus. The man rubs his forehead in frustration as he is asked for the demon's name. He pauses before solemnly revealing the information. The scene reveals the succubus queen, Lilith, with her ominous and alluring presence dominating the frame. The Kangwoo stares in shock, overwhelmed by the realization of her immense power. A few minutes ago, white clouds were reflected in the windows of the building. The leader of the First Legion of warring troops crossed his arms and introduced himself. The leader of the Scarlet Rose smiled, saying that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. The guy said his name. Hyun-hee asked them to sit down. He noticed that there was a big commotion in Korea. The player sat down at the table. The man clasped his hands together, apologizing for not being able to help. The young man thought that this man was not easy to get through. Pointing a finger at her friend, Cha Yeon explained that they were unable to completely protect the people. But thanks to him, everything was resolved. The head of the Legion said that Hwang told him about it. Answering the question of what happened, he said that he had news. Looking at him excitedly, the girl decided that it was not worth calling them personally. Hearing that it was related to the sect, she opened her mouth in surprise. Imagining the face of a man in a red mask, Hyun-hee explained that the sect, located in Japan, like the Korean one, was preparing to summon the devil. The cultist stood in front of the glowing sarcophagus. Someone asked if this was the same as Oriak's. The man nodded and said that this time it was much bigger. Putting her hand to her chin, the leader of the Red Rose remembered that the Japanese cult was stronger. Hwang looked at her comrade and asked if the Japanese government had asked for help. The leader of the Legion turned to her and said that it had not yet spread to the press, but the situation was at a standstill. Introducing the Japanese player, Kyon said that Japan had Fujimoto, who was in the world ranking, and asked why they needed their help. Hyun-hee replied that other than Fujimoto, they did not have any outstanding people and the strength of the Korean cult was lagging behind. Putting her hand to her forehead, the girl was upset because the devil's summoning happened just recently. The protagonist smiled. While the others were discussing this issue, he smirked and thought that this was a great opportunity. Licking his lips, Kyon imagined the demons and thought that his stats could be improved by the devil, so he should first stimulate the summoning and then hunt well. Hearing this, the boy trembled without opening his eyes. The girl raised her eyebrows in fear and asked if it was a monster that fed on male energy. Her friend confirmed it. Hearing the name of the demon, the player opened his red eyes. The chair fell to the floor with a crash. Seeing her friend jump up from his seat, the leader of the Scarlet Rose worriedly asked what happened. With his eyes wide and crazy, he declared that he had to stop this ritual. The Demon King sat on the throne, with his servants standing on both sides. Lilith was his closest servant. Palak flexed his fingers and asked what he should smash this time. He was a symbol of great power. The succubus queen closed her eyes. Her cheeks blushed. She controlled the demon army with her excellent mind. Lilith was also the official wife of the Demon King. A vile tentacle approached his face. The king ran away in fear when he lost power after losing the war with the prince. The succubus helped him cope with the crisis, and they swore to marry. After that, the demon constantly invaded the king's chambers, and the protagonist had to tremble with fear and hide from her tentacles. He could not return to such a life. Kanwoo clenched his fist and said that he must stop the summoning for the sake of this world. King dumbfoundedly pursed her lips. Crossing his arms over his chest, Hinyu was convinced that he had a strong sense of justice. The guy asked to tell him more about the situation in Japan. The man clasped his hands and asked that no one, under any circumstances, should spread this information. Introducing an image of a Japanese woman in a kimono, he explained that Kurosaki had been kidnapped by a cult. The girls jumped up from their seats, unable to believe their ears. The reason for the kidnapping was still unknown. Putting his hand to his mouth, the guy whispered who she was. The leader of the Scarlet Rose was surprised that her friend did not know her. Squinting, she told him that it had happened 5 years ago during the cataclysm. Then, an SS rank gate opened. People were filming what was happening on their phones. A Klodpa appeared from the portal. Many Japanese were brutally killed. Monsters appeared from the portal one after another and attacked people. The state lost the ability to function at all. Then the shaman of heaven appeared. Kurosaki put forward a sparkling staff. She provided tremendous help to the Japanese players, being the granddaughter of the king, and sent monsters to Hokkaido. Thus Japan was saved from destruction. People with weapons stood next to the corpses of monsters and people. Among them was Fujimoto. Despite the fact that Hokkaido is not in the most stable state now, the shaman became the moral support of all Japan. Looking to the side, Chang added that this person's skills are amazing. According to rumors, Kurosaki used the powers of Japanese mythical gods, and the person's eye was depicted yin-yang. One of her abilities was spiritualism, thanks to which the Susanoo snow was created. The player thoughtfully put his hand to his chin. Thinking that the Ekta kidnapped, he opened his mouth, thinking about mythical gods. The young man widened his eyes and imagined the 7 names of the great demons, realizing that they all belonged to the 7 deadly sins. If their names had become myths, and this was the influence of the other world, then the shaman's ability was not spiritualism. The white veil fluttered in the wind. It was the skill of summoning a Mila creature from another dimension. Tentacles appeared in the air. This explained why the cult wanted to summon Lilith. The man in the red mask looked ahead. Imagining the grinning queen of the succubi, the guy realized that the sect needed her skills of witchcraft and domination. Looking at the head of the legion, the protagonist asked how many people could be mobilized. The man clasped his hands and replied that the Japanese authorities wanted to hide the abduction of the shaman, so they needed to act secretly. The maximum number of people was 7. Putting up 2 fingers, Kanu smiled and said that there were still 2 places left. Taking into account the 4 people present in the room, and when asked about the move, Huni looked up and said that the plane was already waiting at the airport. The guy said that it was too far, and that he should ask Echidna. The man frowned in confusion. Cumulus clouds floated across the orange sky. A dragon broke through them. With its blue eyes flashing, it moved forward. There was a purple dome on its back. Someone knocked on its wall from the inside. Hyun smiled and asked when her friend had time to prepare. The player replied that he had already flown, and that he really wanted to. The team members looked worriedly at Hyunmo, who was about to vomit. Huni said that there was nothing he could do, and that he should just be patient. The boy turned around when Hansel called him. The girl put her hand to her chest and asked if she could really go with them, and if they should have taken Sehun or Tisu. Remembering his friend's flushed face, the protagonist closed his eyes and replied that her help would be most useful because she had the lightness of light enhancement, which would make the effect of demonic energy incredible. The dragon announced that they had arrived at the place. Kanu crossed his arms over his chest and looked forward, with the shocked girl standing behind him. Hansel hugged his hand and covered her mouth with her palm. Seeing Sapporo Station. The ruined station building was covered with trees. Demons were walking on the ground. A huge snake was crawling along the street. A dark portal pulsates ominously in the city, surrounded by destruction and flames. Above it, a winged creature with glowing energy hovers, intensifying the foreboding atmosphere. Kangwoo stands silently, his red eyes glimmering with resolve. His calm expression hides the storm brewing within him. The portal radiates demonic energy, spreading chaos throughout the station. Kangwoo contemplates if the ceremony has already begun, his focus sharpened. Kangwoo asks Captain Jang Hyunyi about the demon summoning at Sapporo Station, trying to confirm the situation. The group discusses the Japanese government's belief that the summoning is connected to a dangerous cult. Kangwoo's red eyes narrow as he notes the limited time left. His determination to act quickly is evident in his intense expression. A golden glow illuminates the Sapporo base, where figures are seen preparing for action. The location stands as the focal point for the unfolding conflict. Inside the base, a man with a confident smirk announces the arrival of their guests. His companion, confused, looks around in search of the intruders. A group of warriors descends with a fierce energy, their dramatic entrance scattering the guards. The guards quickly raise their weapons, sensing the threat. One of the guards shouts in alarm, questioning the identity of the intruders. Captain Jang Hyunyi steps forward, his name striking fear and recognition into the room. Captain Jang Hyunyi shakes hands with Prime Minister Yamada, expressing gratitude for his swift arrival. Yamada assures him that their neighboring countries must support each other in such matters. Kangwoo instructs Echidna to use her translation magic, and she eagerly complies. Her glowing hands radiate energy as she prepares to cast the spell. The Prime Minister looks curiously at the people behind Captain Jang Hyunyi, asking for an introduction. Hyunyi's composed gaze hints at his confidence in the group. Kangwoo introduces the group as skilled players who volunteered for the rescue mission. Their strength is highlighted, reassuring those present of their abilities. A government official nervously requests permission to greet the group personally. The Prime Minister quickly obliges, inviting him forward with a polite gesture. Fujimoto Ryoma introduces himself as a world ranker, extending a confident handshake. His composed yet intimidating demeanor leaves a lasting impression. Fujimoto expresses gratitude for being given the opportunity to assist in this incident. Kangwoo observes from a distance, recognizing Fujimoto as one of the world's top players. Fujimoto's eye glows with a mysterious aura, indicating the presence of Suzunu's eye. The eerie energy surrounding him hints at his immense power. Kangwoo smiles at Fujimoto while Echidna clings to him warmly. Kangwoo dismisses formalities, focusing on the task ahead with a calm yet assertive tone. Kangwoo expresses concern about the unknown location and timing of the demon summoning, suggesting they hear the plan in more detail. Fujimoto Ryoma acknowledges his point and begins to reveal their strategy. Fujimoto Ryoma stands before a map, summoning swirling magical energy to explain the plan. He prepares to outline the key locations related to the demon summoning. The scene shifts to Sapporo Station, engulfed in flames and chaos. Explosions erupt as the skies turn crimson, signaling the start of the conflict. Echidna channels her magic, her eyes glowing as she gathers immense power. The purple energy she conjures creates an ominous aura around her. The aftermath of a devastating attack shows blood-soaked ground and scattered bodies. A terrifying figure stands at the center, emanating destructive power. Strange demons emerge from the shadows, their grotesque forms and menacing presence filling the air. Their eerie laughter echoes as they prepare for battle. Kangwoo stands confidently beside a staff-wielding ally, both ready for the fight ahead. The backdrop of shattered buildings adds to the grim tension of the moment. A massive demon golem from the second hell charges forward, its fiery presence overwhelming. Brave fighters rush to confront the towering beast with unyielding determination. A monstrous Kerberos from the third hell lunges, its sharp teeth glistening with deadly intent. Its fearsome roar sends shockwaves through the battlefield. The Kerberos looms menacingly as someone questions how the demon cult managed to summon and control it. Frustration erupts as an ally shouts at Kangwoo for not helping. Kangwoo calmly instructs Seol-ah to use her light magic, brushing off the commotion. Seol-ah nods and casts a glowing buff, illuminating the area with golden energy. The effects of graceful light boost Kangwoo's stats, significantly increasing his resistance and demonic energy. He evaluates the enhancement, satisfied with the newfound power. Kangwoo activates the authority of Hellfire and Spallation, his hand engulfed in fiery energy. A menacing grin spreads across his face as he prepares to test his abilities. A massive pillar of fire erupts, scorching everything in its path. Enemies scatter in panic, unable to withstand the sheer force of the attack. One of the demons shrieks in agony as the flames consume it entirely. The fire's intensity leaves no room for escape. A nearby ally shields herself from the fiery blast, overwhelmed by its destructive force. Her strained expression reveals both awe and fear. Anger flares as another ally protests, declaring that this is not the right approach. Her frustration grows as she struggles to process the chaotic situation. Glaring at Kangwoo and Seol-ah, the ally accuses them of losing their minds. Her voice trembles with both disbelief and fury as the heat of the battlefield intensifies. Kangwoo smirks confidently as Hansol scolds him for recklessly using a powerful technique, worrying about others nearby. Brushing off her concern, he slyly suggests that his abilities make him the perfect candidate for clearing out the monsters around the station. His expression grows serious, and he mutters about feeling an unsettling sense of discomfort. His red eyes narrow as he contemplates the ominous atmosphere. A man with dark hair points to a map, explaining the situation. The Sapporo station is overrun by demon cult monsters. He outlines a strategy to split into Korean and Japanese teams to confuse their enemy. He elaborates that this confusion will allow someone to infiltrate the cult's ceremony, highlighting the importance of their plan. A black-haired man protests about the dangers of someone going in alone, expressing his concerns firmly. The strategist reassures him, stating that he will take on the role himself. The confident man volunteers with a sly grin, exuding determination as he prepares for the high-stakes infiltration mission. The scene shifts back to the purple-haired girl panicking and clinging to the man, urging him to act quickly. He nonchalantly dismisses her, focused on planning their next move to disrupt the ceremony. Suddenly, a brilliant explosion of energy illuminates the night sky, drawing everyone's attention in awe and shock. The power emanating from the scene leaves a lasting impression on the stunned group. A young man in a cap stares at the sky in disbelief, questioning the sudden display of power. Another man observes calmly, noting that it must be Ryoma's dramatic way of making an entrance. The focus shifts to the ground, where Kangwoo steps into a glowing red circle. Resolute, he prepares to follow Ryoma, ready for whatever lies ahead. Kangwoo and his allies stand on a glowing red circle, observing the situation. One of them notes Ryoma's presence while commenting on his delay. Activating the authority of observation, a glowing red eye symbol radiates from Kangwoo, illuminating the area. The power reveals the hidden truths amidst the shadows. Kangwoo's gaze locks onto a chaotic scene with demonic creatures gathering. He suspects the ceremony is taking place at this ominous location. The scene shifts to a mysterious figure activating a glowing blue eye. The intense energy ripples outward, adding to the chaos in the battlefield. One of the monstrous creatures snarls as glowing energy swirls around it. Kangwoo observes, noting how the situation is becoming stranger by the second. The chaos intensifies as another creature, battered and glowing with demonic energy, charges forward. Kangwoo ponders how much destruction they've caused yet questions the absence of the cult's main forces. Kangwoo narrows his eyes, frustrated. He wonders why no demon cult members have appeared yet, despite the significant chaos they've unleashed. Kangwoo smirks ominously, piecing everything together. His sharp tone indicates he has uncovered the truth about the unfolding events. The Hansol and her ally demand answers, confused by Kangwoo's cryptic statement. With a dramatic gesture, he explains that the summoning ceremony must be taking place due to the overwhelming demonic energy around them. Kangwoo clenches his fist, unleashing the authority of divine power, radiating an intense burst of energy. The air crackles as his aura intensifies, preparing for a decisive move. With an even stronger surge, he activates the authority of destructive void, his presence becoming menacing. His dark silhouette exudes raw, destructive energy as he mutters about his next target. A massive shockwave explodes outward, scattering his companions and shattering the ground. They struggle to withstand the sheer force of Kangwoo's unleashed power. The purple-haired girl and the boy shout at Kangwoo in panic, questioning his reckless actions. Their expressions are a mix of shock and fear as they watch him push forward. The dust settles, revealing Kangwoo standing resolutely in the center of a shattered battlefield. His companions urgently ask if he's okay, their concern evident as the scene grows tense. A single red eye gleams through the shadows, locking onto Kangwoo with a predatory glare. The atmosphere thickens, signaling the arrival of an unknown, menacing force. Two cloaked figures emerge, brandishing weapons, their faces masked with demonic expressions. They demand to know who Kangwoo is and how he found their hidden location. Kangwoo, flanked by his allies, smirks wickedly, his eyes glowing red. With an unsettling tone, he utters, "Bingo," confirming he's exactly where he needs to be. The mask was lying on the ground, there was blood around. The girls went down, corpses of cultists were lying next to the rails. They ran to their friend. Cha-Yon was surprised that he managed to find where the demonic cult was hiding, and said that she would go with him. The healer did not lag behind her, declaring that she would also go further. Hearing that they were not allowed to go forward, the girl lowered her eyebrows in displeasure, sweat appeared on their cheeks. The young man reminded that there were still monsters on the earth that could not be ignored. Hyun Mo fought side by side with Hwan. The Echidna ran up to her master. Remembering the event from the past, she frowned and said that her friend should not do the same as last time. Putting out her little finger, the girl asked to promise this. The protagonist realized that it was about releasing Makjong. Thinking that he would not have to repeat this, Kangwoo smiled and nodded. His legs rose into the air. Using the wings of the power of heaven, he went deeper into the tunnel. Noticing the approach of the intruder, the cultists put their weapons forward, intending to detain him. A demonic blade flashed on the guy's hand. Without stopping, the player killed every follower of the sect who stood in his way and rushed forward.
Oh, hell no!
Looking back, he thought that their level was significantly lower compared to the Korean cult. Dying people reached out their hands to him, not wanting to let the enemy go. The young man thought that these loyal knights looked very pathetic and looked away. There was a hole in the tunnel. Strange sounds were coming from it. A light was a succubus was drawn on the cloak. The unknown person said that it was time to meet the true and great god. Raising his hands, the man standing in front of Kurosaki said that there was no longer a need to sit in front of a monitor for his life. Right now, their goddess was about to come through space and time. The cultists joyfully raised their clenched fists. A cluster of dark energy appeared around the shaman's body. The cardinal called the queen of the succubi to descend into this world. The people rejoiced, believing in there he saw the protagonist entering the ritual room, who said that everyone should continue doing what they were doing. Watching what was happening through his fingers, Kani said that he would just stand there and think. He was surprised that a demonic cult looked like this. The follower looked back and asked to leave this matter to him. The guy thought that if this was a real cult, then there would be more darkness, and there would be an atmosphere of madness and greed. Taking the blades with keychains in their hands, the cultists asked their comrades to continue the summoning ritual. The player decided that was still something dark here. The man stepped forward, declaring that he would not leave his brothers alone. Hearing the cry that love is learned through suffering and hardship, the young man raised his eyebrows in surprise. The cardinal pulled the whip, declaring that he would not allow anyone to suffer. The enemies stood opposite each other. The guy raised his hand and asked if this was really the reason for summoning the succubus queen. Akiyama asked if there could be any other reason for this. Introducing the seductive demoness, he stated that a succubus is every man's dream and that they do not need anything else. Looking down, the player asked if this was a dream. The cardinal standing in front of him looked at him and confirmed it. Using the power of speed, the protagonist interrupted his speech and hit him in the face with his knee. The blow broke the mask into small pieces, screaming that this was all nonsense. Kanu threw the cult leader far back. The cultists looked around excitedly. The guy asked not to take hell so lightly, because there was no place for dreams in it. Because of the memories of Lilith, his eyes were bloodshot. The followers of the cult rushed at the enemy to protect their leader. The player broke the mask of one of them. He punched another in the jaw. While the fight was happening, Akiyama got to his feet. Opening his mouth wide, the man shouted that they could not handle it. Putting his hand out to the side, the cardinal called for his comrades to retreat and promised to buy time. Baring his teeth, the leader of the cult shouted that, even if he died, their faith and desires would be eternal. Looking at him, the cultists burst into tears from such words. The young man narrowed his eyes in displeasure. It was hard to call it faith when people kidnap and sacrifice other people. Clenching his fist, Akiyama asked not to insult their faith. Suddenly, he pouted, hearing something. Using the powers of the blade, explosion and decapitation, the protagonist summoned waves of fiery energy around himself, asking if the cultist could die for his faith. A two-handed sword appeared in the air above the place where the ritual was taking place. The energy around Kurosaki was growing. A flash appeared in the air. Someone shouted that a crack would appear because of this. The sparking sword pierced the cardinal's body. Blood gushed from his mouth. The man fell to the ground. The cultists immediately ran to him. Standing in front of the enemy, one of the followers declared that he would deal with everything, and asked his comrades to carry the leader away. With his red eyes flashing, Kanu ordered everyone to leave here. The followers of the sect obediently agreed. People ran away in fear. Left alone in the room, the guy said he would like to finish everything, but did not want to waste time on the cultists. Wings appeared behind his back. He stood in front of the rift formed during the ritual. Coming closer, the player thought that this was a rather crude method. Mixing demonic and pure power, the young man grabbed the spatial matter. The edges of the rift began to tighten. The guy grinned contentedly. Pulling the matter, he thought that he had almost closed the portal. Suddenly, a tentacle appeared from there. It wrapped around the guy's hand. The voice of Lilith was heard, calling her king. The tentacle squeezed his hand with force. The protagonist opened his mouth in fear. Many tentacles appeared from the portal. The queen of the succubi said that she would come soon. Frowning, Kanu shouted at her not to come. Kangwoo faces an overwhelming wave of demonic energy as shadowy figures chant, "My king," reverberating in the chaotic atmosphere. With a horrified expression, Kangwoo shouts in desperation, pleading for the sinister force not to approach him. Tentacles lash out around him, and Kangwoo struggles against their grip, gritting his teeth as he tries to hold them off. Kangwoo notices the demonic energy stone embedded in him losing power rapidly, a crucial resource dwindling under the strain. A dragon ally warns Kangwoo against repeating his previous actions, urging him to take a safer approach as he contemplates his next move. Despite his fears of encountering Lilith again, Kangwoo resolves that survival takes priority, though the thought leaves him visibly uneasy. Still determined, Kangwoo braces himself, resolving to do whatever it takes to withstand the challenge ahead. Activating the authority of predation, a swirling vortex of energy envelops him, signaling his final, desperate attempt to regain control. Kangwoo discovers that the fissure itself is made of demonic energy, and he plans to absorb it to power up the energy stone for his next attack. The demonic energy stone glows bright red, finally reaching its optimal size, ready to unleash an extreme power to match Kangwoo's resolve. The conditions for achieving the extreme demonic energy body are revealed. Attain 60 demonic energy, perfectly combine 3 or more authorities, and create a massive demonic energy stone. With all conditions met, the demonic energy stone explodes in a vibrant display, signifying a monumental transformation. Kangwoo's body begins to change dramatically, engulfed in streams of violent energy as he questions why it's happening now. Determined, Kangwoo decides to use the chaotic situation to his advantage, a sinister grin forming as his red eyes glow. Channeling the overflowing energy, he focuses it into the fissure, attempting to stabilize the situation. Declaring his resolve, Kangwoo confidently believes he can seal the fissure using the immense power at his disposal. With an explosive effort, Kangwoo hurls himself into the center of the chaos, aiming to complete his risky plan. Exhausted and relieved, Kangwoo collapses, breathing heavily, muttering how close he came to letting Lilith break through. Kangwoo notices his stats have increased by 5, but he questions the minimal physical changes despite the immense energy surge. A message confirms that Kangwoo has completed the requirements for extreme demonic energy body and unlocked the 6th awakening trait. Reflecting on the locked nature of the trait, Kangwoo smirks with excitement, ready to finally uncover its potential. The 6th awakening trait, Demonic Art of Creation rank SS, allows Kangwoo to craft powerful equipment using authorities, with its strength dependent on the materials used. Kangwoo realizes he needs to offer a myth-ranked item for crafting, but laments that his current best equipment is only legendary. Pausing in thought, Kangwoo's sharp gaze catches something unusual, his curiosity piqued by an unexpected detail. Kangwoo glances back, muttering about finding a myth-ranked item, as the scene shifts to the figure of a woman lying unconscious. Recognizing her as the Maiden of the Skies, he considers using her possession ability to create myth-ranked equipment. Kangwoo recalls that she once crafted equipment for a world ranker, her skills holding legendary potential. Deciding to focus on rescuing her first, Kangwoo resolves to deal with the situation at hand before planning his next steps. As the ground beneath him crumbles, he realizes the summoning ceremony wasn't above, but was taking place underground. A mysterious figure emerges from the glowing vortex, exuding an ominous presence. The man's question echoes, "What just happened?" as the tension heightens. The blue-haired figure smirks slyly, questioning Kangwoo's presence, noting that this area wasn't designated for the Koreans. Kangwoo, unfazed, gently holds the unconscious maiden, her serene yet vulnerable state evident. Smiling confidently, Kangwoo declares his purpose to rescue the kidnapped maiden. As the tension in the room escalates, the blue-haired man accuses Kangwoo of stepping out of his assigned area, but Kangwoo counters, stating that his actions align with their chaos-spreading plan. Feigning disappointment, the blue-haired man remarks that Kangwoo should have informed him beforehand, his tone tinged with suspicion. Kangwoo explains that he saw no cultists above and decided to investigate further, implying the blue-haired man was likely trying to monopolize the achievement. Kangwoo stands beside a woman, his sinister grin contrasting her serious demeanor. While she excuses herself politely, Kangwoo's thoughts reveal his apathy toward the situation, hinting at deeper motives. In another scene, Kangwoo's sly grin widens as he fantasizes about the rewards he could claim. His greed shows as he calculates the mythical items he desires, completely engrossed in his ambition. Suddenly, an urgent shout of "emergency" shatters the moment, causing Kangwoo to spin around in shock. The tension spikes as the unknown crisis begins to unfold. A glowing orb radiates light as someone raises it high, desperately calling out for assistance, their voice filled with urgency and determination. Chaos erupts as a man sprints across a crimson battlefield, his gaze locking onto a figure in red and white. The revelation strikes hard. There's a demon cult infiltrator among the Koreans, their presence threatening the balance of the fight. Kangwoo holds the maiden tightly in his arms, his sharp eyes widening in shock as someone accuses him of attempting to kidnap her. Amidst the dim underground passage, he urgently requests reinforcements, his voice echoing with desperation. In the confines of a player-exclusive prison, Kangwoo sits with a magic restraining device bound to his hands, his expression tense but composed. A man in a sleek coat informs Kangwoo he'll remain restrained until his trial, a spark of curiosity flickering in Kangwoo's eyes as he questions the purpose. The man confirms the trial is set for tomorrow, his piercing gaze adding a chilling finality to his words. Kangwoo is accused of attempting to kidnap the maiden, seeking her abilities, and infiltrating as a member of the demon cult, his intent now fully revealed. The accuser mocks Kangwoo, suggesting he find a lawyer, though implying that no one would dare to represent him. The accuser drops another cryptic remark, mentioning 5, leaving Kangwoo startled and visibly intrigued by the statement. Kangwoo's expression darkens, his glowing red eyes cutting through the shadows as he calmly mentions mistakes, his sinister aura intensifying. The accuser, with a smirk, declares that Kangwoo has already made 5 mistakes, mockingly finding humor in the situation. Turning slightly, the accuser mocks Kangwoo further, accusing him of spouting nonsense and questions whether he still has time to relax in such dire straits. Sitting back in the dim light of the cell, Kangwoo is told to maintain his composure for the trial, the tension hanging heavy in the air. With a sly smirk, Kangwoo whispers to himself about the trial, resolving to act quickly as his ominous presence grows stronger. Kangwoo's allies stare in shock, their faces filled with concern as they call out to him. The tension in their voices reveals their confusion and worry about what might have happened to their comrade. A heated argument erupts as a group refuses to believe Kangwoo is a demon cult infiltrator, their disbelief clashing with the accuser's bold statements. The accuser reveals Kangwoo's alleged attempt to kidnap the maiden, implicating him further, with Prime Minister Yamada backing the claims. The ally, furious, clenches her fist as crimson energy surrounds her, vowing vengeance with fiery determination. Her anger manifests as an explosive outburst, the red energy intensifying as she mocks the accusations, refusing to back down. Kangwoo, attempting to calm her, promises to return soon, but she lashes out, accusing others of trying to incriminate him. The Seol-Ah ally tries to ease the tension, reminding her that Kangwoo's promises always come true, but doubt lingers in her trembling words. Kangwoo gives a calm yet confident smile, instructing his allies to wait with Echidna as he reassures them of his resolve. Reflecting on his promise, Kangwoo considers his next steps, already strategizing for the trial ahead. Dark energy begins to swirl around him, the powers of authority of obligation and authority of souls awakening, creating an ominous atmosphere. He reveals the first mistake of Fujimoto Ryoma, attempting to suppress him with a magic restraining device, unaware of its futility. Kangwoo smirks as the demonic energy engulfs him, demonstrating his dominance over the feeble attempt to restrain him. With his powers surging, Kangwoo declares his need to act swiftly, promising malice will be met with even greater malice. Taking flight, his form radiates a menacing aura, his vibrant wings cutting through the night as he vows to return murderous intent with even greater force. The next day, people gathered in the Tokyo court. Fujimoto crossed his arms and closed his eyes, thinking that the trial began late. He hoped that everything would go quickly. The boy's cheeks turned pink, and he smiled when he thought that after the trial was over, he would become a hero for saving the shaman. In the distance, 3 more people were sitting at the table. The protagonist yawned with his hand over his mouth, and Chai Yang and H.W. Yang looked like they were furious, and Fujimoto thought that they would not have had time to prepare in one day. The young man grinned and thought that he was completely prepared, and that the judge presiding over the trial had received a decent amount of money from him. The judge, Wakabe Nobuhito, turned pale with fear and trembled, while Fujimoto thought that this judge had already dealt with some of his cases.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Fujimoto crossed his arms and turned away, not understanding why Nobuhito was trembling so much and why the trial had started so late when everything should have gone smoothly. The judge said in a trembling voice that the prosecution would first present evidence against the defendant Kano, and a man in a who participated in the operation to rescue the shaman. The man adjusted his glasses, frowned, and said that during the operation, Kano had voluntarily left his position and participated in the summoning of a demon. Holding the documents in his hands, the lawyer said that Kano had kidnapped Yuri and escaped when Mr. Fujimoto arrived on the scene and defeated the demonic followers. Ki-yang slammed her fist on the table and screamed that the man had gone crazy and was talking nonsense. The man in black began to restrain the screaming Ki. The protagonist crossed his arms and turned around when Echidna, who was sitting on Hansel's lap, screamed that she was a defender. The judge asked what she would say in defense. While Hansel tried to calm the girl down, Kano said with a smile that he had nothing to do with the demonic cult. Fujimoto smiled slightly, raised his fist to his face, and thought that he was disappointed in the protagonist's intelligence if he thought that such protection would save him. The boy smirked and thought that Kano would not win this trial, and Nobuhito called a witness. Fujimoto went ahead, saying that they needed urgent help in the underground passage, and thought that he had already arranged the witnesses, and the first one was the most influential. It was Prime Minister Yamada, a man with dark glasses, who pursed his lips and looked down, trembling with fear, and Fujimoto did not understand what had happened to him and the judge. The boy looked at Yamada, who was holding his shoulder, and concluded that it was because of old age. Fujimoto looked closely at the Prime Minister, who said today he was going to hide one truth here, and the boy thought that this was not what they had agreed on. Yamada rubbed his hand, his voice trembling with uncertainty. The man arched his eyebrows and looked down, saying that until today he continued to receive threats from Fujimoto. The blue-haired boy's eyes widened in shock. There were men in suits sitting on a wooden bench holding notepads, and Yamada revealed that Fujimoto had intentionally accused the Korean player of aiding the demon teachers in order to hide a secret. Fujimoto slapped his palm on the table when the Prime Minister revealed that in this trial, he and Kano were merely victims of Fujimoto's evil plan. The boy stood up, asking what Yamada was even talking about. Fujimoto froze, his mouth hanging open, his eyes wide, when the Prime Minister said that he was, in fact, a demon teacher. The man in the brown suit grabbed the wooden surface and called out loudly for the Prime Minister. The reporters jumped up and crowded behind Yamada, asking him a bunch of questions. The Prime Minister on his shoulder and said that in fact the shamanists had also been kidnapped by Fujimoto, and that he had previously hidden the truth because Fujimoto had threatened to sacrifice his entire family to the demonic teachers. The protagonist clenched his fists in triumph and smiled when the Prime Minister said that the shaman was actually saved by Kano, and Fujimoto gave false information to hide the location of the ritual. Fujimoto sweated and cried out with an awkward smile that these were all false accusations, and that he had dedicated himself to Japan, so there was no way he could be a demon teacher. Fujimoto placed one hand on the table, hesitantly shouting that they had no evidence. His eyes widened in shock when someone said that they had evidence. The stone of concentrated magi was shining brightly. The crystal was in a bag held by a man in a black suit. He said that it was a stone of pure power. The man said that such stones were created and used by teachers of the demon school, and that this stone was found in Fujimoto's house. The youth froze, placing his hands on the table. He did not understand how he was connected to this stone of pure power. Fujimoto frowned, thinking that he would have used this stone to incriminate Kano if it was really in his house, and asked loudly how the lawyer would prove that this stone was actually found in his house. The girl with the red shoes walked forward and said hello. The girl fixed her hair and said with a smile that she was in charge of the investigation into Fujimoto and his involvement with the demonic teachers. Soen pointed her hand at the brown-haired man and said that Prime Minister wanted to uncover the truth about Fujimoto, and so he asked for help from Shinjaman to search his house. The man took out a black suitcase and Soen said that this was the result. The girl crossed her arms and said that Fujimoto was in possession of the items of the demonic teachers, and that demonic energy and items containing magic were found in the evidence in his house. Fujimoto put his hand on his face as Soen said that she swears on the name of Shinjaman that Fujimoto's true identity is the demonic teacher. The boy closed his eyes and laughed loudly, saying that this was just ridiculous and thought that he couldn't do anything if things continued like this because he would be accused of being from a demon school. Fujimoto removed his hand from his face, opened his eyes wide and asked what happened. He waved his cloak and shouted that their claims were baseless and that the Chingamen were trying to swallow Japan. Soen closed her eyes and the girl next to her touched her hood and spoke to Fujimoto. Kurosaki, the sky shaman, removed her hood and told the boy to just give up.
Oh my god! Wow!
The reporters looked at her in shock, saying that Kurosaki was in the hospital. They didn't understand how she was here. Kurosaki turned around and said that she was here to say something as the person who caused this incident. She remembered Kanu carrying her and said that she couldn't remember the exact details since she was unconscious, but she knew one thing for sure, and that was that it was the protagonist who saved her, not Fujimoto. Kurosaki bowed, saying that it was her responsibility since she was kidnapped, and apologized for causing concern to the citizens. The reporters raised their hands, shouting that it wasn't the shaman's fault since Fujimoto belonged to the demon school. Soin looked at the judge and asked if Fujimoto should be arrested, and the man agreed. Fujimoto smiled and sighed when Nobuhito ordered him to be searched and arrested. The boy's eyes lit up brightly and he laughed, thinking about how Prime Minister Yamada, Kurosaki and Soin had classified him as a demon school. Fujimoto turned to Kanu and thought that it was definitely not a coincidence and that someone had definitely done this on purpose. The protagonist smiled slyly, clenching his fists in joy, and Fujimoto realized that this was all planned in advance. Blue lines appeared in the air. Fujimoto rose into the air, purple fog rising around him. Then an explosion thundered and Fujimoto screamed, asking Kanu to stop laughing. Hwayon frowned and the people present shouted that Fujimoto had escaped. Kaon grabbed the chair, screaming loudly. She clenched her hand into a fist and said she would run after him too. On the table lay a broken gadget with yellow lines. Lights were on in the windows. A beam of bright light flashed across the sky. Fujimoto frowned his black eyebrows, cursing loudly through clenched teeth. He did not understand at what point everything went wrong. Just when Fujimoto thought about leaving Japan, a bright ball appeared near his face. Fire filled the space. The protagonist stood on the roof of the building as his youth raised his head as the protagonist asked if he understood now. Fujimoto placed his hand on the ground, slowly standing up. Kanu created a bright ball of light in his hand and asked if Fujimoto wanted to hear about his fifth mistake. Kangwoo smirks ominously, taunting his adversaries by mentioning their 5 critical mistakes with an air of superiority. Surrounded by fiery golden energy, he mockingly asks if they know what those mistakes are, his power radiating confidence. The accuser shouts in frustration, attempting to justify their rushed plan while refusing to believe they could make such grievous errors. Kangwoo calmly begins listing the mistakes, starting with the failure of using magic restraining devices, which have no effect on him. Clenching his fist, he prepares to elaborate further, the energy around him surging as he builds momentum for his next revelation. Kangwoo smirks as he reveals another secret: he can create demon energy stones, a skill they thought exclusive to the cult, further dismantling their accusations. He mocks their third mistake of relying on ordinary people as judges and witnesses, pointing out their inability to resist his influence. The accuser's face twists in panic as Kangwoo calmly explains how easily he manipulated the judges, exploiting their lack of skills. Kangwoo unveils their fourth error, underestimating his alliances. A promise from the Thousand Sword Gate leader ensured his access to critical support during the investigation. With a chilling tone, Kangwoo prepares to reveal their fifth and final mistake, his dominance cemented as his adversaries are left speechless. Kangwoo grips his opponent firmly, revealing their final mistake, daring to think they could use him for their own gain. His voice turns cold and menacing as he compares the difference between a dog and a demon, his dark aura intensifying. With a mocking smile, Kangwoo concludes his speech, spelling out the 5 fatal errors that sealed his enemy's fate. The enemy, enraged, leaps into action, their power surging as they launch an all-out attack in desperation. Screaming in fury, they declare their intent to kill Kangwoo, the battlefield erupting with chaotic energy as the clash begins. The scene opens with a powerful blast of energy emanating from a determined figure as they declare their intent to utterly destroy their opponent. The clash of light and shadows heightens the tension, signaling the start of an intense confrontation. The Kangwoo smirks with cold confidence, vowing to make the end excruciatingly painful for their adversary. Their glowing aura reflects their immense power and sheer resolve. A massive explosion shakes the towering structure, sending shockwaves across the city. The overwhelming force demonstrates the destructive scale of their abilities. The antagonist stands amidst the aftermath, slightly battered but grinning with twisted satisfaction. They remark on how they should have unleashed their true strength from the beginning. The moment shifts as the antagonist gasps, their confident expression faltering into shock. A new, unforeseen threat or realization seems to have caught them off guard. A sinister smile emerges from the shadows as another powerful entity reveals their disdain. They express disappointment in their opponent, hinting at high expectations that were not met. The entity's terrifying form looms over the scene, pulsating with dark energy. Their towering presence exudes menace, solidifying their dominance in this climactic encounter. The final frame captures the ruined tower under the night sky as the entity mocks their adversary. Despite acknowledging their effort, they dismiss their execution as flawed, leaving a chilling air of superiority. The figure confronts his adversary, accusing him of exploiting others despite appearing kind. He stands tall, exposing the facade of his opponent with scornful clarity. The Kangwoo expresses his disappointment, calling out how easily the opponent's pretense crumbled. His cold tone pierces the air, making his disdain evident. Unleashing his energy, he criticizes the opponent's flawed strategies, mocking their wasted potential. The swirling vortex of power intensifies, embodying his judgment. The opponent erupts in anger, rejecting the insults and shouting in disbelief. His voice cracks with desperation as he defends himself against the crushing reality of his defeat. Consumed by rage, the opponent retaliates with a surge of power, demanding to know how he dares judge him. His movements are erratic, fueled by frustration and denial. As the intensity subsides, the opponent is left panting and trembling, his confidence shattered. His fearful expression reflects the overwhelming dominance of his enemy. The man taunts his opponent, criticizing their predictable reactions and shallow words. His calm demeanor contrasts with the panic on his opponent's face. The opponent lunges forward in a blind rage, unleashing a fierce attack with raw energy. The man smirks, acknowledging the improvement in his opponent's response. The two clash in midair, their powers colliding in an intense exchange of blows. The man mocks his opponent's desperate attempts to look strong, showing no signs of concern. A massive explosion erupts as their energy collides, engulfing the battlefield in blinding light. The overwhelming power on display shakes the surroundings. The fight escalates into a chaotic storm of energy, with both figures darting through the air, leaving shockwaves in their wake. Their movements become a blur of relentless strikes. The battle intensifies further, shaking the tower as energy blasts ricochet across the structure. Each blow amplifies the destruction, pushing their powers to the limit. The two figures charge at each other, their energy clashing in a brilliant burst of light. The battlefield trembles under the weight of their power. The man casually asks for sushi recommendations, his nonchalant attitude adding an eerie contrast to the chaotic fight. He even mentions celebrating with colleagues after finishing the battle. The opponent, now battered and furious, struggles to contain his frustration. His voice cracks as he questions the cost of his humiliation. Twin spirals of energy form, radiating with destructive power. The opponent's growing desperation is evident in his actions. Hovering with menacing pink wings, the man mocks his opponent's rage. The opponent, surrounded by swirling energy, demands to know if he's being ridiculed. Consumed by anger, the opponent vows to kill the man, abandoning any notions of restraint. His attack surges forward, promising immediate and merciless destruction. Kangwoo smirks as he promises to deliver the worst death imaginable, taunting his opponent's growing rage. His calm demeanor contrasts with the storm of energy swirling around them. While effortlessly dodging, Kangwoo admits his mistake, complimenting his opponent for being more impressive than his previous enemies. His relaxed attitude only fuels his opponent's frustration further. Kangwoo continues his mockery, casually offering to treat his opponent to sushi after the fight. His nonchalant tone adds insult to injury as he dominates the battle. With a menacing grin, Kangwoo raises his weapon, declaring it's time to end this. The energy around him surges, signaling the final blow. Just as Kangwoo strikes, his opponent musters a desperate counter, their energies colliding with a blinding flash. The tension rises as Kangwoo's confidence falters for a brief moment. Kangwoo's widen in surprise, sensing something unexpected in his opponent's counterattack. The tables may be turning as the fight reaches its climax. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.